Episode 2. Her task as Intermediary, Part 2. Rosalee walks ahead of the small entourage of deities, which includes Demeter, Hestia, Hermes, and Poseidon. The gods are all nearly running to keep up with the cafe owner's hurried strides. Hera is the goddess of marriage rites. She honors marriage vows, she says. It's absolutely ridiculous that anyone could think she would cheat on Zeus. Maybe she was finally fed up with Zeus's infidelity? Hestia suggests. She's had hundreds of years to get back at Zeus for his inability to keep it in his robes, and she's never taken the chance to do so, Rosalee counters. Why would she start now? As the group approaches the innermost chamber of the Olympian palace, thunder echoes louder, and there are sounds of clattering metal objects and smashing furniture coming from behind the ornate doors. There are other gods outside the doors to the chamber the commotion is coming from. Dionysus, who is standing off to the side, is surprisingly sober. A beautiful woman with long blonde hair, the goddess Aphrodite, is standing with 9 women, their similar way of dress distinguishing them as the 9 muses. A rather stoic man in full armor, his arms crossed over his chest, is standing away from the crowd. He wasn't wearing his helmet, showing that he had a shaved head and a short beard. Ares, Rosalee addresses. Dare I ask how he's doing? Crash! Following the sound of what could only be assumed to be clattering platters, a wailing roar screams from the other side of the door as if to answer her question. The rampage causes all the other deities present to shudder in fear. Zeus is one of the many cosmic deities that you don't want to get angry, though there was one other person above him on that list. He's throwing a tantrum, the god of war says. Even more so than usual. He seems rather hateful. Serves him right for all the pain he's caused Mother. Rosalee sighs and rubs her eyes. Honestly, I don't think that's what's going on here, she says as she looks at Ares. I doubt that Hera would cast aside one of her accolades just because she wanted to get even with Zeus. And even then, she'd have a lot to catch up on considering Zeus's extensive list of mistresses. No, something else is going on here. Her nonchalant mention of Zeus's numerous accounts of infidelity causes many of the gods present to awkwardly shift in place. It's a topic that was obvious, but it was never brought up by anyone. For obvious reasons. Rosalee, Hermes whispers, is that really necessary to bring up? He looks at him and waves him off. Oh, relax, she says as she turns and walks past the group of deities outside the door. All I'm saying is that if Hera did decide to cheat on Zeus, the guy had it coming. But I know that Hera wouldn't do anything like that. You all should know that by now. Even Zeus. The noise from the other side of the door ceases, leaving the crowd outside in a stunned silence. The young cafe owner takes a deep breath and puts her hands on the doors. Here we go. Rosalee fearlessly and rather abruptly pushes open the doors to the chamber and then closes them behind her. The room is an absolute shambles, which she expects given the racket she had heard before, but what she does not expect is for the room to be seemingly quiet. Thunder rumbles softly, sounding as if it's in the distance. She carefully steps around the mess of splintered furniture and discarded silver and gold platters that had once held fruit. The fruit had been smashed and wine thrown in a splattered mess against the walls. She walks further into the room, and she hears the sound of someone softly sobbing. And when she follows the sound, she finds something she especially did not expect. She finds Zeus, perhaps the proudest and most powerful of all the Greek gods, curled up in the corner, monstrously drinking wine and crying in a pitiful mess. The sight is enough for Rosalee to question if she needs glasses. Here he is, the ruler of the gods, crying in the fetal position while huddled against a wall. Zeus? The Greek god looks up from his pitiful state of being, and his eyes, red from his tears, widen. Rosalee, he mutters, as he quickly tries to get up and compose himself. Apologies. I'm afraid you've seen me in such a vulnerable state. Her jaw threatens to drop at his words. Zeus is actually being polite and not an arrogant prick? Okay, now she is very concerned. Hera's so-called infidelity must have really broken the poor man if he's drunk enough to apologize. Zeus, what happened exactly? She asks, shortly after regaining her composure, and helps the lumbering man into a chair. or any piece of furniture that had survived his tantrum. At the question, the proud god almost breaks down into tears again, and Rosalee questions if Hera married a man or a child. She calms him before he can break down, and she finally gets him talking. Hera, my beloved queen, my devoted wife, he blubbers. She's been having an affair with a mortal man, and she's brought her bastard son into our home. Rosalee's eyes begin to twitch, her sympathy for the man quickly turning to irritation and then turns into justifiable anger. Are you freaking kidding me? She screams at the blubbering man. Are you stupid or something? It's clear that the emotions of the gods aren't the only thing that can screw with the weather. Zeus's drunken face slowly begins to pale, a subconscious reaction to sober up. Now, Rosalee, Zeus says, holding up his hands, let's be reasonable. Don't now Rosalee me, you idiot. Don't you dare ask me to be reasonable, you fricking hypocrite, she says, jabbing her finger into his face. After all the times you've cheated on Hera and fathered children out of wedlock, that's what's got you crying like a child? Do you have any idea how ironic your behavior is? Oh, yes. The irony of this situation. Meanwhile, at the Café Pantheon, a certain Norse god, his red hair tied in a messy ponytail, is playing Uno with a tan-skinned god with feathery golden brown hair falling level with his shoulders. The former is staring at his cards while the latter taps his hands against the table. It's your move, Loki, he says with a sigh. Just play a card. Don't rush me, Horus, the Norse god Loki says as he looks through his cards and then stares at the card at the top of the stack. A blue 7. You can't rush genius. Loki, it's just Uno, he says. It's not poker. Shut up! Horus lets out a breath and then looks at the door. Rosalee is supposed to have been back by now. I wonder if something happened, he hums. Oh please, Loki says. That woman has the willpower of any stubborn beast you can think of. It would take a force of the cosmos to stop that woman when she's upset. Suddenly, a slight tremor shakes the cafe, and the two gods look up from their game with a blink. The red-haired god grins mischievously. Speaking of which, he giggles, looks like someone's pissed off our little fire sprite. Horus shakes his head as he looks at his cards. Yes, I pity the poor fool who upsets her, he says, seeming to wave off any concern for the matter. Now, make your move. All right, Loki snaps at his opponent, slapping down a card. There! Are you happy now, you damned bird? Horus looks at the card he laid down. It was a green 7. He smiles and looks at Loki. Yes, he says. Very happy. He starts to lay down a series of cards. A green skip, a yellow skip, a red skip, a red reverse, a blue reverse. Uno, Horus says as he lays down a blue skip. Out. The last card he plays is a blue draw 2. I win. Oh, come on! Loki shouts, throwing up the rest of the cards in his hand. That's the 7th time you've won. You have to be cheating. Horus isn't listening to Loki's rant. He's staring out the window of the cafe. I wish I could have some baklava, he mutters. Horus, are you even listening to me? This episode of Café Pantheon was written and recorded by yours truly, Kathleen Lyons. I hope you enjoyed the adventures I've written for your viewing pleasure. If you want to follow for more updates, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just look for Kat the Crow-Winged Author or Kathleen Lyons. Café Pantheon is not my only story. I've written 2 other books, Arborea Lux and Seraphim Awakening, which are available on Amazon. If you enjoy paranormal dark fantasy with vampires, wolf shifters, magic, and bits and pieces of history and folklore, you'll enjoy my particular brand of immersive fiction. Thank you for listening, and I hope you'll stick around for more adventures of Café Pantheon.